Okay, so I'm Brandy, and this is Megan and Dylan, and my husband is not here because he's working today, but this is, although they were really young, and this is their journey and their story, as a parent, I had full view when they were just so little and really didn't have the understanding of what our family was going through at the time of Dylan's diagnosis. So Dylan was born, and he's a year younger than Megan, and he had failed a newborn hearing screening. And honestly, my second child, so when I got the folder from the hospital and it had the Social Security information about him to get his Social Security card and his footprints, and then as I was digging through, the breastfeeding information and all the information they give you, there was a little slip of paper that said, your baby's hearing was tested today, and it either they check off pass or refer. And so it said refer, and I just thought, okay, I didn't even understand what that meant at the time. You're just, as a parent, you're overwhelmed with just giving birth and then getting that paper with all the other stuff, and you're really just looking at the footprints and you're looking at your healthy baby. And to be honest with you, when I had talked to people about getting their baby's hearing screened later, I was always kind of laughable, like, what are you going to do, put these little earphones on the baby and they're like, raise your hand when you hear something? Like, how do you test a baby's hearing? That'll just tell you how ignorant I was, being a college-educated mother, and my husband's college-educated, because we didn't even know anything about considering hearing loss. We have no hearing loss or deafness on either side of our families, so it was just kind of like, okay, going through the motions, whatever, we'll have his hearing checked. And they checked his hearing and they said, listen, we really think your son has a significant hearing loss, but we want to do another test on his hearing. And I thought, what? Okay, fine. And so we came back again, and a little bit more educated this time, but still very ignorant, and had his hearing tested again. And I remember the person that checked our hearing, she did a very nice job in telling us about Dylan's hearing loss, but to me, I thought, what, this is another day of work for you. But it was a very different day for us. It was. It's so funny because being on the other side of this now, I think the emotion comes from the initial shock, but it also comes from the hope and how well they do now. You just know this is not the end of the story, but the story is going to have a good ending. That's kind of where the emotion comes from. But when we left there, I recall my husband taking me by the hand and saying to the tester, "You're not labeling my kid." And we were out the door, and the next thing I really remember about that day was pulling in the garage. I don't remember much else about the ride home. And I thought, okay, so this big thing of emotions of, they're crazy, that's not true, and then, what if it is true? How can that be true? Yes, they're not labeling my kid. No way. And just this back and forth, well, if it's true, what do we have to do? I don't know what to do. And we didn't really even talk about it very much in the car. I think we were both still stunned about it, that even that evening, I think we just kind of took a breather from each other to try to figure out, my husband and I try to figure out what are we doing. And the next morning, my husband says, you know what, my next door neighbor in New York, where I grew up, his dad was a doctor of audiology. Maybe we can get a second opinion. And I said, yes, let's get a second opinion. So before we knew it, we put our children in the car from Florida and we drove to New York. What? I don't know why we did this. But it ended up it was a good blessing, because when we were there and they gave Dylan his little, what they call the OAE testing, Megan was milling around in the audiologist's office. And this professional had a ramp for older adults who may be in wheelchairs, or just to come down the ramp to go in his office. And I remember Megan running up and down that ramp. And I was really just thinking, I should have just brought this kid, because she was just such a distraction from what we were trying to learn about Dylan. And that professional said, "What about her?" And I said, "We're not here for her." I said, "I'm here for him." And he said, "But what about her? What about her hearing loss?" And I said, "She doesn't have a hearing loss. She passed her newborn hearing screening. Like, she doesn't have a hearing loss." And he said, "Have you had her tested?" And I said, "Well, we don't have hearing loss in our family. We've never had her tested except for when she was born." And he said, "Well, I think she has a more significant hearing loss than he does." And I said, "No." I said, "She's just my naughty, strong-willed child, and she doesn't like to listen."
See? I said naughty earlier.
Exactly. And as soon as I said it, as soon as the words came out of my mouth, I was like, "Oh, what did I just say?" And then, of course, I was very mad at my husband because he brought me to this ridiculous professional that had no idea what they were talking about. So he had tested Megan's hearing and said, "She's delayed. You need to get this child with hearing aids." And he quickly wrote on a piece of paper, speech delay, again, speech and language therapy, hearing aids immediately amplify their ears, consider cochlear implants with question mark, information for us that I still have the paper that he wrote. And
you do?
We saw this gentleman as a courtesy. He let us just walk in the door and we left. Like, nobody asked for insurance. There was no birthday, no names. It was just, "Yeah, come on in, old neighbor," and took care of us.
And as we can hear, we can listen to music, we can sing, we can read, we can learn, we can do all these stuff that we want to do, because there is a future ahead of us, and you can be whoever you want to be. Like, to me, I want to be a pastor or an NBA player. My sister wants to be a
marine biologist.
Okay, yeah, that's a good dream. I don't know what that is, but we can go through that. So yeah, whoever you want to be, go straight at it, because if I didn't have the guts like you guys did, none of us would be here right now.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you. And I hope that you actually
please try your hardest. Mm-hmm. And the stronger your hope, the stronger your hope, the stronger you will be in life, and you will succeed and you will go far.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.